And we're back. Okay, welcome. People who trickle in late, your sign in is pinned in the chat. The links are pinned in the chat for this Canva presentation. And the chat is for you, it's for me. And I really do like to use Google Chat as we move forward if there's something I couldn't get to you in this session today. So I'm looking forward to walking through office ergonomics with you. And this is a topic, ergonomics. It's the work to fit a person with limited physical capacities. And it's something that HR needs to pay close attention to. We need to monitor for ourselves, and we have this back and forth between what we need to do for our jobs, what we have, the tools that we have for our jobs, and then how do we manage that on a day-to-day basis. And there's a way to do a lot of great work and feel comfortable throughout the day and throughout your career. My background is ergonomics is with office ergonomics, but I also work with utility workers for 6 years, and all those little things about how they use their bodies, because if they get hurt, there's a big change coming ahead for them. Whereas we in this setting aren't looking at those giant risks, but there are definitely things that we need to be aware of to make sure we can stay in the workplace and do our jobs as well as possible. And the couple links at the bottom, those will be in the first few slides. So as your buddies jump in to the meeting, and they can use the chat to get your support as well. All right, and here in the district group norms, we've got our 7 Ps. Please interact with each other. And as the session is recorded, I appreciate your emoji feedback. And as things move forward, if you don't want to drop them in the chat, you're welcome to use Google Chat. Email is good too, but I tend to preserve my inbox for things that I critically need to do the job. And then little asides, Google Chat seems to be great for me to prioritize those. All right, so let's keep it moving. What are we doing here with office ergonomics here at a school district? Well, there's some terms in these 2 bullet points. So ergonomic risk factors. There's some key features there about primary and secondary and additional risk factors in your work setting. Could be your play setting if you're a gamer. It could be how you start to look at this with your students, and of course your personal use with your tablets, your computers, laptops, desktops, mobile devices, cell phones, and all the combinations of those things throughout our lives now. Pretty steeped in electronics. And then we're going to go ahead and try to help you identify something going on that could use a quick fix. And we're going to look at this term ergonomic control strategy. There's 2 main types that can help you get your work done and feel comfortable and excited about getting things done in a time-efficient manner. And strategies to use time to make sure you're taking good care of yourself and you're advocating for yourself. Okay, big slide. While you read this, go ahead and lay back. Maybe take your hands off the desk or put the cell phone down. You can, if you have something to lean your head against, do that. A reminder, your chin belongs over your ribs. So if it's floating forward, you can go ahead and correct that. And I'll go ahead and use this moment for myself to just take a big deep breath and chill out. I haven't done one of these presentations in a hot minute. So I hope it's all working for you. But yes, ergonomics has to do with this very human limitation and the fact that we're going to be asked to do a lot of different work, physical work, electronics work, your mental and emotional capacity in your work. And there are definitely ways to structure all of those things in very specific ways to make this feasible. So you can do your job and not feel overwhelmed, and you can do your job season after season and not feel like you're struggling or accumulating some issues along the way. Okay, so probably the most serious slide. Here are those risk factors. In the world of ergonomics, they measure a lot of things. So there are things called ideal postures and how much force your body should be tolerating in the day. If you're picking something up or pushing and pulling and touching things, what are the resistance that you should typically encounter? How frequently? Are you pushing buttons how many times per minute? Moving from here to there, moving an object here to there, certain times in the day or throughout the week, or it's a hard task that happens kind of on a regular basis, weekly or monthly or quarterly. And duration, how long at a time are you sitting through a certain task? So when I was building these slides, I had to build it from the ground up. So I knew it was going to take a long time, and how long could I really tolerate, and how long should I sit there tapping at just the laptop in order to get that done. And beyond that, there are things that can add on to those primary risk factors. So your environment, so I wrote temperature, but it could be humidity, it could be wind, it could be the direction of the lighting coming through, vibration. You're not probably running a backhoe or a sledgehammer, but that's a consideration. Maybe you should watch vibrating on your wrists. For some people, they're real sensitive to that. They may have already experienced some discomfort if the devices are buzzing on them constantly. Contact, maybe you picked up a box, it feels really sharp or awkward, and that's, if you're moving things around constantly, that could be an issue. Impact, that could be if you're using, of course, hammer type things, using your hand as a hammer. I like to think in this setting that our students are slamming on their touch pad, or they're slamming the keys multiple times, the impact on an individual finger that many times, the way that they are engaging with it can become an issue over time. Some people are very resilient, but some people early on will experience that it's not something that they should do. We are starting to get into this additional risk factor. We're really looking at psychosocial issues, and I have an extra slide to recognize that you are very human and you come in with a lot of things on your plate when you come to work, or when you need to go back and address things in your family and in your homes. It's more than just the tools in front of you. It's really things that kind of cloud your whole existence. And what we can do here together is look at this last column, is controls. So there's two types: administrative, so that's how things were kind of built and planned. And then engineering is the stuff that you use. Do you have a desktop and a laptop and you can float in between? Or do you only have a cell phone to do a lot of computing tasks? That could be a really important thing to consider as we go forward and talk about actual equipment that could make things great for certain people doing certain tasks, or who have experienced certain physical issues accumulating to do their job well. Now, I'm not going to forget to click this 20-second break. So in 20 seconds is sort of a classic micro break, and I started the timer. So in this 20 seconds, I'm just going to slide back a little bit over from the screen. I'm going to let myself slump a little bit, because when I'm engaged with a computer task, I'm typically pretty upright and tight and leaning forward. And here's my cam. I realized that the audio on that was so intense, but there we go. That was a micro break, and that is an administrative control where you can schedule yourself. You can plan your day, and you can plan through your tasks to break it up like that. And then the engineering control would be the fact that I landed a timer. I used something to make sure I have a tool to make this work and make it unavoidable. I can't skip that. I shouldn't. Right on. Is there anything happening in the chat that I can pause and answer for you or address before we move on to less serious slide? We're doing great on time. I think we will be able to answer a lot of questions and do some of the fun discomfort management stuff. Dancing in our time. Oh, there we go. Oh, too fast. This is the slide I was talking about regarding additional ergonomic risk factors, and they're ergonomic because they do. It's just you adjacent to your work. So just remember that we will try to keep these things in mind when we talk about other ways to adapt to your work. But sometimes we do need to break up the work because of very real concerns. So hopefully you start to clue into what are some of the things happening in my own day as I anticipate getting into the flow of the work year with your own little office space and classroom, the flow of your units in your quarter. How can you map these things out to give yourself a little bit more of that up and down, some serious time and some nice easy flow time. Okay, so if you have a laptop in front of you or a device in front of you, you want to practice doing something, I'm going to work from the top down and go over your kind of classic office setup. So at the top is your head. You're going to sit with good posture. Your head belongs over your ribs. If it's flowing completely to the front of that, is there a way that you can make a small adjustment there? Now I'm looking at a laptop screen and I have a stand, so my eyes are straight. This graphic shows you sort of a classic monitor on a stand, telescoping or not, but we've got some big monitors these days, and this graphic was probably back in the day when the size of the monitor is probably at best 17 inches. So with the bigger monitors, you are going to see the lip of the monitor an inch or two above, but your eyesight should be straight when you're sitting with good posture to hit like the taskbar, the URL line or something like that in the screen. So you might have a tiny bit of screen above that level eye line and the physical monitor maybe above, whereas this picture is showing that your eyeballs would just meet if you had a level head the top of your monitor. So if you have something, use a ream of paper, use whatever is in your environment and kind of play with that. Maybe you'll restructure your office when you get back to do that. And that's, again, just making a really dedicated and specific posture. Okay, and then down from there, your shoulders should have room. You know, if you're really tight to a wall, or if you've got a kind of small chair with armrests and you're kind of hemmed in, maybe you want to consider ways to make sure your shoulders have a way to relax downwards and touch the upper part of the seat. That's really important. As your arms droop down, they should hang. So the armrest should just barely be touching if you have them, and allow your elbow to be at about a right angle as you touch the desk. So now we're talking about desk things. Your wrist should be at the level of your elbow or a little bit below. Making an acute angle out of that can be really tricky. Your biceps are going to be working extra hard and creating a lot of upper body fatigue. Your wrist should be straight or a little bit angled down, and your fingers angled a little bit down. The keyboard itself, if you have a fairly traditional keyboard, does step up towards the back. So as you lift your fingers, they're already there. You don't have to move your wrist to get your fingers to tap the next row of keys. They should be built like that. A lot of people love the little tabs and lifts at the back of their keyboard. Most people actually don't need those. A flat keyboard is fine. A traditional keyboard with a natural lift is fine. Those extra legs at the back, those may come into play if you have a dedicated and adjustable keyboard tray that fits underneath your desk. And that's in really, you know, people who work in data centers and they have those kinds of desks. But practice with a really flat. So everything with your elbow forward should be flat, if not angled down just a little bit. And there's ways for you to adjust and bring in simple tools or buy a dedicated office ergo tool to make that work. And this is showing a side profile, but you really should have things directly in front of you. So if your mouse is way off to the right or left or really forward, you're going to want to think about how you can position that so your elbows don't have to move. You may swing kind of this rotation open and close, but things should stay in front of you so that you're not listing forward, you're not kind of leaning to the side. I definitely have seen a lot of people say, I went through the checklist and I don't know what's left. And their mouse is like at the back of their desk and they just lean right all day long to do their work. So with good intentions, people can really skip some of these basics. If your back rest does not have a lumbar support, practice with a really small towel. If you find that it really reshapes your spine naturally, really tuck your hips back into the angle of your seat so your thighs are horizontal, if not angled with your knees a little bit downwards. And then your legs should kind of hang underneath. And if you don't, like I'm 4'11" on a good hydrated day early in the morning. So I'm a dangler, but sometimes just have a back like horizontal bar and I can pop my feet upon that. Or you can buy a cheap little plastic step up or a cool little foot ottoman. I have seen footrests in some office catalogs that are over $200 because they adjust in many ways and they even swing your desk into a little hammock. You don't have to be that fancy, but you definitely want to have some light contact with the floor and a way to adjust, because 2 feet even, 1 foot up prop, switching to the other foot propped up, and just ways to have variety to encourage movement so you're not absolutely stuck. So yeah, that is a very classic ergonomic self-assessment and set of suggestions. But if you've had previous discomfort, you have a unique health history, and you've identified some other ways, there is definitely some variability here. A big trick can be is like, what if I don't have adjustments in the height of my seat? If your seat does have an adjustment, it's going to be the height adjustment. It may not be the angle of the backrest, the tilt of the seat. And your desk may not have a ways to adjust, you know, where that big flat space is. So there's definitely ways to amend what you have so you don't have to spend a lot of money making a lot of changes. So if you're doing an intense task, like I'm really in here giving you this presentation, I'm very forward and there is a lot of tension here. But if you're just an observer, definitely practice sitting back, getting your hands off the devices, off maybe into your lap. If you have armrests, they can hang there. If you have a headrest, if you're really high back chair, letting your head and shoulders get into more extension, because we spend quite a bit of time into flexion, and that creates a majority of those sort of upper body issues. All right, so that's the big heavy. If you got a chance to practice that, or if you want to practice that once you get into your the swing of your office. Experiences back at the school site. These are really interesting to do. You can take a picture of yourself or have somebody watch you and say, hey, how's my head? I just adjusted this thing here. Those are really good activities to start off with. All right, so here, again, top is classic. And I've had the privilege of in-lieuing in a good number of classrooms around the pause, and our students definitely look like the bottom. And they're tapping enter because it's not responding. They're slamming and pushing super hard on the keypad. They are tapping wildly, switching between different tabs because they don't know how to split the screen. They look like an unpeeled shrimp. And it's not just in your classroom. They're doing this in multiple classrooms. They're going home and using their Chromebook as a gaming device. They may be on their personal cell phone with this very extreme posture. And we're doing that too, because life is fun, and if we have access to fun things, we want to do them. But we're going to do a little bit much from what our bodies are designed for. We're going to kind of reach our limits, and our fingers are going to numb, our necks are going to ache. We're going to be stiff when we stand up. So we do want to think about those primary risk factors. What is this an optimal posture for what I'm trying to do right now? How much force, like you got a heavy laptop and you're kind of holding it trying to do another task. I do that in PE. I walk around with my Chromebook sometimes, and I'm tapping it around, and that's awkward. And that's a good amount of force to be holding for minutes on end, several days in a row. So we want to think about our life style going forward and the accumulation of that over some decades. And maybe we can take some mercy on our students and other things to get away from the Chromebooks, or to make it so it's some things be just watching and some things be highly interactive. We want to think through how much variety we're allowing ourselves in that environment. But I 100% am guilty of the bottom, and I definitely see it around the district. Okay, so with this, this list is how you can look at tools in an office setting. So monitors, some people in the school district have 2 monitors, some just have 1, a good size 22-inch monitor. I'm not really sure what those Lenovo ones are designed for. A stylus, so you're not tapping things, you like the sensitivity of your fingers, you get numb, tingly, dull sensations that can just flat out hurt, be painful. So a stylus, when you have them, when you can keep them without losing a million of them, they're good tools. I'm a huge fan of the Bluetooth keyboard, because I don't have to fuss with wires, and they can tend to be more compact, and you can select nice ones without the 10 key if you're not needing that. And if you have issues, and an ergonomic keyboard is good for you. You might want to play with somebody else's if they have that, and practice with it a little bit to see if that's something that they can sing for you. Wrist rest or keyboard rest, those like foam or beanbag type things for comfort to get the contact stress off the edge of your desk. A variety of mouse. So if you are only using a touchpad, if you're building a lot of slides and being really specific and spending a lot of time making something great, you are definitely going to want a separate mouse. And there's a lot of variety. You have a travel mouse, which is tiny, a traditional mouse is just quite flat. And then you've got these other ones that can feel really nice and help you be very precise in your work. And then if you are working on a laptop, maybe you need a stand to adjust the monitor. If you're still working with paper, I'm a huge proponent of document stands. Mine goes in front of behind my keyboard and in front of my monitor, and some will clip off to the side, and they're going to be holding 1 or 2 papers if you're doing that. But a chair doesn't have to be fancy. You can add a lot of things to a very simple chair that you maybe inherited, but it's good to adapt them. So when you're seated, do you have that contact from the floor up as you sit in a really good posture, and do you have an option for more of a relaxed observational posture? And some of you have the luxury of designing your own little workstation, and the principles are the same as far as how your hands slide up to the desk and what happens all the way up to your eyeballs. If you are standing, a standing mat, they're ubiquitous now. They're really great. They do make a big difference. And if you don't want a thing on your floor, maybe you just get some different insoles. Those also make a big difference. That we'll talk about later, because that's an FSA. And timers, I've got one up here, and we're going to practice the 20-20-20 rule right now. So it suggests that after 20 minutes of work, you take a 20-second or more break, and you make sure you let your eyes look at something that's at least 20 feet away. I'm not going to start this timer because I really didn't like the sound I made at the end. But my neighbor's house is here. There's some plants. I got my window open. I got some fresh air. And, I'm going to stand up, talk to my plant, some oxygen, look at the dog here on the floor, and just be like, I'm just taking another micro break. And doing this throughout the day can make a significant difference. It will not interfere with the efficiency of what you're trying to finish. And if you're one of those people who really like the structure, this thing called a Pomodoro, if you open up the slides, there's a link there. But it's a timer that sets 20 minutes of work and then 5 minutes of rest. And some of these Pomodoros are mapped out for like 4 hours or something like that, everything before your lunch break. So if you really need structure, people have really made it a career of talking about and designing some very specific administrative and engineering controls, so you can do that. So, all right. And any new discoveries that you want to mention or anything hot in the chat that I may have missed at this point? Great. And make sure you have signed in. It's pinned in the chat, and you open up the slides. You can also find that. There we go. So these are some, go for it.
Dessy, there's a question on the chat. It's, how do you know if you need a footrest?
A footrest, I recommend it for everybody, but it definitely, if you can't get a little bit of support off the floor, or like right now in the chair that I'm sitting in, only my toes are touching as I'm sitting high enough to utilize the things on my desk. So if I slide it, I've got this little cheap ottoman I got at Home Goods. If I set that up, now I can set both feet up, and my leg from the knee down feels unweighted. And then I can kick it around and adjust it so I can do legs out. I can put one foot up, one down, and I can switch it. And now I'm encouraging a lot of movement. And it doesn't have, it can be as, it can be a shoebox, it can be a ream of paper, several reams of paper. But if you do quite a bit of sitting or desk work, it is a good idea to have something for your feet, or both feet have access to it. Even better if it's adjustable. Like I said, some of these that I've seen in the Ergo catalogs are $250 foot, because somebody made a product and they do, it's nice. That thing that swings your feet, it's like a rocket. Oh man. But I don't want any of you to have to drop your hard-earned money on something like that, since we're not the kind of company that would okay a purchase like that. But very important that for this slide, the hardware is sort of a specialty, and we get our stock things. We get our Chromebooks, we get our Lenovo's, and maybe we're lucky enough to get a second monitor or something like that. But this is a discussion that I have not mapped out, fully as far as how it pertains to our school district and purchasing. But if you've seen, like, if I love my compact Bluetooth keyboard. If somebody wanted to practice with that, let's just start sharing and like letting people see, test drive these things, because some of them are pricey to make an amendment. So a mouse can make a huge difference, and some of them are great. You have all these pre-programmed buttons, so you can open and close applications that you always need to pull up, so you don't have to do verbal searches. You don't have to type things, move your mouse. You can just start and click a couple buttons, a couple different ways. It's all programmed for you, which is really nice. And the one in the picture, that mouse is a vertical mouse. So you can see how it's just like a hand-shaped grip, and you slide the whole thing around. So if you have existing elbow and shoulder problems, this might cause a little bit of an issue. But for people with hand and wrist issues, this has been a game changer. There's also a semi-vertical mouse, which isn't as extreme as the one you see in the picture. To the right of that, document ramps, document holders. I have one that's similar to that without a little paper grabber, and it is very simple. I think it was $10 through our Office Depot catalog. I used my new teacher money for that. That was a key purchase. And middle column, or middle row, excuse me, on the left, that is a roller mouse. That's like a $300 mouse. We only ended up suggesting this in the Ergo world for people who have just so much work to do, such a high volume of computing tasks, and they have existing issues with they cannot use. They have so much damage they can't use a single hand. And this allows two hands to be mousing. The keyboard goes in front of that, and you can use both thumbs, both index fingers, to operate the mouse. So that's sort of an extreme example. To the right of that, in the middle, that Kinesis keyboard splits. It also, you can buy a kit where it tents up. So now you have that semi-vertical positioning for your keyboard. Really nice product. A stylus, I'm a big fan. I am at that point where I'm starting to get a little numbness in my finger, so I should be using a device that is not at the end of my finger. And your students ours, when they got their new Chromebooks last year, they loved using the stylus, and of course, like 40% of them were gone by the first month. That happens. It's a small device, but a really good one. Viewboard people, again, if you are up there tapping and you can find your stylus, please make use of that, or at least do. So that's an engineering control, but your administrative control would be encouraging yourself to tap a little lighter. I mean, these are sophisticated devices. You don't have to slam the device to make it work. And the final one on the right, a chair. This chair does not have a headrest, but it does have armrests. Some armrests go up and down. The flat part swivels in and out. You can even open them up and pull them in. Amazing. But mine right here does not have armrests, and we're going to do okay. Then again, I don't do 8 hours of computer work a day. Lumbar supports, you can buy them. You can roll up a sweatshirt, a kitchen towel, and you don't need much to get that contact and feel really good in your lumbar spine. And then seat cushions, some of them contoured to the hips, some of them are like I just use this little beanbag cushion sometimes when I need it, but they're out there, and you can explore, take your patio cushion and see if that makes a little bit of a difference for you to get the height, to get a good tilt, to get that just comfort, because maybe you're a hard leaner to your right, to your mouse side or something like that. All right, this one, I'm going to be a novice in this category because the efficiency that you can work with with electronics, it can really be a game changer. My favorite on a PC is holding the Windows key and hitting the right or left button to split the window. So you can do this with single monitor, dual monitor laptops. There's a way to split the screen on the Chromebooks. You just have to hover over the resizing little one up in the upper right-hand corner, and you can select. It's great because you can split evenly, or you can kind of do a 30, 1/3, 2/3 split. That's really nice. And if you are using multiple windows, we want to stay central and we want to have good posture throughout that. So if you're always reading, say, something that's on the right side of that window, can you bring it to the left half of your screen? Or if it's on your right monitor, 2 monitors, and you're reading the right side of the right thing, can you just move that window to your left monitor, so that instead of your head turned to the right, because we only want eye movement when we're looking at the monitor, we don't want head movement, then can you adapt that to the other side? Okay, so there's ways that you're using your windows and separating your applications. If you're a 1,000 tab person, can you make yourself like a 2-window person? Or if you've got 2 monitors, a 4-window person. And so those small things make a big difference. In my bullet points, zoom and contrast, I put that in there because as I watch our students, they can't see. Some of them don't wear their glasses and lenses, but some of them just don't practice that feature. So, if you were in the car and you were hot, you'd be playing with the window. Here, we need to be just as free and quick with the adjustments on zoom and contrast. So if you have, a mouse, you can pop the zoom on that. Some of them have a scroll button that you can use for that. Sometimes keying using the Control plus minus to change the zoom is a nice quick fix. And doing things in the keyboard is always going to be ergonomically superior than using a mouse. So when you get into learning shortcuts beyond, Control C for copy, Control V for paste, how many of you know what to do to insert that link? Like Control K saved my life, and Control F on a spreadsheet to find the one thing I really know isn't in there 94 times. Like, I'm going to find it. So as you learn the shortcuts for your device, like Chromebooks are different from PCs, which are vastly different from an Apple product. Once you get really comfortable with the shortcuts of dropping things in, removing things, opening and closing applications, where you need to look, how often you need to key, that can really help. I like using drafts in Gmail. I drop in a lot of things if I'm going to be copying, pasting them later, like the notes I need to make in Synergy about, student forgot their uniform, use talking points to remind the family of the policy. Like, I'm gonna it lives there. I don't have to type it out, and then I can drop it in because I have separate windows and I just start dropping things in there. And if you're using something like, you're building an assignment on Kami, I love Kami because when you're grading multiple student assignments, you can see like 8 of them all at once. And you don't have to do the Google Classroom thing of like scrolling through each screen and with all that clicking. So as we learn our applications, that's the little asterisk down below. Like, our ed techs know so much, but it's first on us to figure out as many ways possible to look for those answers. And then when you get into the flow, you're like, okay, I think I've maximized every tutorial and I've practiced with it. Let me see if any of our district wonderful ed techs can help me, bulk fill all these grades or duplicate these units in Synergy or something like that. That's where it's going to get really fun for you to discover the efficiency. And that would be a great engineering control for you to start implementing little fixes like that. Sometimes you can have some fun sharing your little trick with your colleagues. So yeah, this is going to be the key. Very cool. All right, so this is the fun side. Now, most of us who aren't 19, bodies aren't made of rubber anymore. We really know what ibuprofen does, but like you're going to encounter some discomfort. And if you're tapping on your phone and like I'm getting numb already, so that's not normal. If you have discomfort, we got to start to listen to that. And so we will go through a couple little physical ways for the really common issues that come up in the device world. But beyond that, let's go ahead and make use of this big benefits package that we have and then try them out. So let me go through this list with you. The monthly newsletter reminds us of all these layers of benefits that we have to get in contact with a primary care physician or urgent care, the in-network things that they have worked really hard on to minimize the additional out-of-pocket costs. So there's words like Alteus and Wellspring and one that starts with an A. There's so many out there with medical, surgical, behavioral health, your health care for your dependents. So really making sure you take care of yourself and the people on your plan. So, like, let's not ignore these things and let's talk to the right professional. Just because you get like fatigue in your shoulders because of your computing, you may not go to a personal trainer for that. Maybe a physical therapist would be better. You're like, I'm a busy person. I don't want to take time away. I don't want to drive all over. And you'll figure out that now we have a good amount of virtual care that doesn't cost anything additional out of pocket. So getting comfortable and giving ourselves permission to use these things can be really powerful. The gym discounts, I've explored it a little bit. It's a little tricky in our particular area as far as which vendors, which stores, centers you can tie into. But in general, the more physical conditioned you are, the less likely you are to accumulate issues early, and the more robust you can be to condition out of them. So don't forget, we're built for movement. We're not built to be in front of a little bitty device looking like an unpeeled shrimp for 8+ hours a day. And nutrition, I should be drinking water. My cup is gone. That's on me. To make sure you're, again, for just general conditioning, make sure you're in a good place when you are trying to accomplish your work. Complementary therapy is there. We have pretty good coverage as far as that window goes. Chiropractic, and it might or may not still be massage therapy that used to be in there, acupuncture, things like that for you to explore. Really important for you to feel like you have ways to adjust little things that are new, they're acute, they may be chronic, they may be layered, you may be, have comorbidities that you really want to make sure you get addressed in a really unique way, unique for your situation. And virtual physical therapy is available, so the evals and the ongoing treatments, the follow-ups, the exercise recommendations, the programming, even some of the tools that you may need at that point. That's a really cool benefit that we have, and it's really convenient. So if you're reluctant, like, I don't want to have to schedule 2 to 4 times a week for 4 to 8 weeks to get this shoulder ache taken care of. But if you notice that it is something, at least get the eval, at least start using these benefits. And of course, we have many layers of behavioral health, which is really great because of the psychosocial issues. If you just don't have it and you feel tired and bogged down and you just can't possibly feel physically into your work, you're not going to be willing to make these adjustments and changes and to use your timers and to, it'll take you so much longer to get your tasks done, to get all that grading, and it's going to feel like a chore. So this is a huge part of making sure that you are utilizing that as an administrative control in your ergonomic environment. So this little graphic, we'll play with a couple of these. And this graphic is from Blue Zone's project. You'll see lots of these in the ergo world. Lots of companies pay a lot of money. I used to have to build these kinds of graphics, graphs, and send it to our graphic designer. But if you're in good condition, this isn't going to be an issue. You're welcome to practice. As a PE teacher, I'm going to teach you how to do a stretch that's like a scientific-based stretch. So the prayer one. So it's a stretch into extension. So from here to here, it's easy to do both sides. Open up your fingers and let your wrists sink down a little bit, and make it soft and passive, and hold it for like 3 seconds. Come out of it for just a beat, and then go in, and maybe it's the same, maybe allows you a little bit more room. This is minimal strain. It just barely feels like a stretch. And this is the sequence you can apply to absolutely any body part. So that was sort of a medium length hold. I'm going to relax maybe adjust the contact of my fingers if I need that to. I can use a wall to do this. I can be down on the desk if I've been standing to do this, to put my wrist into extension. So you've been typing and tapping, and that's a flexion-based activity. And the third or maybe fourth one, then you want to hold it the longest. So it's a series. It works way better than just trying to be an adult counting to 60 seconds on a static stretch. Not only do you probably not actually reach 60 seconds, you aren't going to want to do this very often, but it feels a little quicker. I got 1 second, I'm doing like 5, I'm doing like 10. So I'm accumulating, pushing 30 seconds, which is good. And if you add that up throughout the day, pushing 3 to 5 throughout the day, the volume of that easy, simple stretch coming in and out, using the opposite muscle to reverse it and then dive back in, that is a very efficient way to stretch. I'm gonna go ahead and do one for the neck and shoulders because you're an adult, you know what that feels like. So if you want to practice this with me, you may kind of explore, and you may have a further question you want to drop in Google chat if I can't get to you later. But so our heads are supposed to be over our ribs. Like I do this 2-finger push into my chin. So my head is the book, my neck is the shelf. It needs to be back here. Like this is typical, and it's not even what we're supposed to do. That would be better. If I can hold that and then go ahead and do this tilt, this is a direction that adults typically don't stretch. They want to stretch. Again, just a couple seconds. I'm going to reverse it just a little bit. Take that micro break there. And then this is going to be a medium length stretch. If this comes up because it's super tight, let it. We're not in physical therapy trying to correct one segment. You don't need to worry about. It's only my neck. If it happens, it happens. Reverse a little bit, a tiny break, and now I'm going to go. And I'm not trying too hard to get further, but I have felt like I've gotten further into this angle. And so again, maybe it's 30 seconds of stretching, and that is great because to tolerate this for 60 seconds, like even if you just dive into breathing, and that can be hard, and it's going to be hard to be willing to do that throughout the day. Once you experience the minimum amount of discomfort, like if you feel sore, painful, tight, you can associate those words with your early discomfort. Your wrists, shaking on a wrist, you can't shake out your head. I don't want you to do that, but like 10 seconds of really light shaking, if you bring it into your elbows, just random directions as a little break. I should be standing doing this, but I'm going to keep going with my timeline. That feels so nice. And you can get so many joints addressed like that. But again, if you've got an issue that sits with you for a long time or creates so much discomfort that you really cannot come back to your task, there's where you tap back into the benefits. The flexible setting account. If you have one of those, really great to use it for all the range of things that you can get. They do offer a lot for discomfort management. I mentioned insoles. If you have a standing workstation, or if you do stand quite a bit in your job, those are widely FSA available. And sunscreen and massage tools, like a massage gun. You can use your own pre-tax money for that. So that's why things like that were built in, and they are always adding products. TENS units for chronic pain, those are in there. There's quite a few like higher tech opportunities in there. So, all right, perfect. So I'll kick myself out of this presentation in a little bit because I do want to take some time to do in real time adjustment. So I love this meme. I've seen this several times in many different ways, and it's a classic in the ergo world. But yeah, like not doing that thing anymore that you don't like and that hurts your body. That would be great if you could just never come back to it, but that's not the reality. So we're going to use these engineering and administrative controls to adapt where we can, grab some new tools, talk about our schedules and our loads, and be real with our bodies, even if we've maximized our health benefits and we're still coming in and like grinding and trying to do the best we can. There's ways to be forward in that. I'm going to stop sharing in a little bit. All right, well, let me come back to you and let me move this screen. Let me see if I can make this work. I apologize if there's a lot of back and forth. I'm trying to figure out my feet because I want to show you some changes that make. My voice is going in and out, but from the top down, this was it. Like, URL line would be there, and here's my eyeballs. Like, that's not too bad. But it is a bit low. I'm fortunate to have a stand. So there's an engineering control, a little something fancier than a reading paper, so I can make that adjustment. So when I'm sitting well, my eyeballs should be level, if not a little bit on the low side. Low would be better than extending your neck for prolonged periods. And here, moving down, here's my elbow, here's my desk. This chair is sitting too low. I can't make it go any higher. My wrist is way up here, my elbow's down here. Need chairs. The cushion. Well, that's cool. But now I'm like kicking free. It's better. But like monitor wise, this is the laptop. I can't use this keyboard. I can't use this mouse. So I do need something on the outside. And I don't have a mouse example. Here is a crocheted sea otter. But on a compact keyboard with no 10 key, I can make things really compact. And that is really nice. I don't want, if you have a 10 key, you're way out here on the side, that may not work for you. So those compact keyboards are great. This would probably be bad. If you're leaning with your elbow on the table, mousing extensively, you want it pretty tight. Ottoman would be too high for me. I would want something lower. But that's an example of some fixes that you might encounter in the ergo world. All right, let me reverse course here. And, oh, this thing behind, I would be remiss to talk about wrist pain. So self-massage is like shaking is the good one. Really catch all for everything for the upper body. But if you want to like just hold a spot on your forearm, if it was tight, and then like make a circle with like lightly, super lightly. Like that feels nice. And that spot is a little less tender, less tight. So you can try those. Like I'm not digging. This is not hard work. Everything's pretty loose. But pinning and adding some motion can do. You can do it with the shoulder. You can shear, kind of move your neck around in a couple different directions. And so you're compressing the muscle, giving that a little bit of a different mechanical response. And then you're doing a very active stretch around it. So those are some tools. This is a Theracane, which is nice for little passive massage. And like I said, if you have an FSA massage tools, you can find them that are FSA eligible. I'm just leaning my forearm on this can. It's giving my shoulder massage, which is Brad comes with these little nubs. So you can do the same thing. Massage up, pin, stretch, go all the way up. You can jostle it if you like that. These little nubs, I can put it on my arch. I can't show you. Maybe with my foot. There you go. So if you're standing a lot, running around a lot, or you're an adult and you have some discomfort in that regard, you can start to make those changes to your level of comfort. You can really be your own helper in that regard. We went through a lot. Okay. I'm going to open up the floor and let you kick back some of ideas that I got going in your head or something that I kind of glossed over quickly. Let's open that up for people who want to hear some more in their last few minutes. Those of you who have access to the slides, the feedback form should be showing up shortly for you. So sign in, and feedback form really important for us on these summer sessions. Yeah, floor mats for teachers, definitely. Most stores do sell them now. Like I got mine at Costco, the ones I have in my kitchen. You can order them from Office Depot. Definitely an extremely useful tool. Yes, I'm ready to put the feedback in the chat. Feedback form here. Here's your copy. There we go. We've landed the feedback form in the chat. It's now in the slides as well. But a floor mat, they can be just a simple fabric mat. They don't have to be the gel fancy ones. Some people sometimes it creates a tripping hazard or an issue with your chair. If you have you're going back from the sitting to standing, that transition can be really irritating having a solid mat there. So some people just have like a really simple rug, but they change shoes. They consider they're rotating their shoes or changing their insoles. When it comes to employer purchases, especially in school districts, there's a really limited stock of what they're able to buy, those pre-approved kinds of purchases. Typically, things outside of that category will only be possible if there's a recorded ergonomic issue. So if you've got a workers' comp case going, that's how it's happened in the industry. But again, you may, discover some flexibility as far as budgeting, purchasing, and like asking your colleagues, do you have this product as well, at least for a test drive? But that's a tricky one, certainly. And a school district is a really unique situation where I'm not too versed in how we're addressing those things outside of an existing workers' comp claim. But yeah, it's like when you see some of these really like this stand is great, but like, unless you've got that new teacher money and you can buy one from Office Depot, like you might be on your own to go to a physical store and see the units that you like. The laptop stand that I've currently got adjusts for tilt, height, and it also has a swivel, which is really nice. And it's got a good weight so it doesn't shift. If I suddenly kind of tap on my device, it doesn't fly away. Those are really good questions. Thank you for bringing that up for everybody. I've seen some really great standing workstations, people using 2 separate desks. So they got a sitting station, they got a standing station. They got like a podium near their view board or something like that. Milk crates, reams of paper, lots of adaptations to make sure things work. Tricky though, if you wear like several types of shoes and you got a standing workstation, like you may be making really frequent micro adjustments to your little world there. But it might be worth it, like your fit on point. Yes, if you are working in many different settings, many classrooms, you've got like, meeting over here and then computing station over here. And like you've got to knock out like an IEP form or something and you're in the meeting space, you're not in your classroom space. Yeah, you might want to make just a couple of adjustments so you can get into the work rather than like worrying about a complete overhaul of that station. And I know there's a lot of issues, if you're sharing a station, like adapting the needs for very different people with different sizes, heights, and preferences. So that's a negotiation that will be something that you'll explore. But again, like sometimes it's just 1 or 2 of the fixes that are the engineering types, and some of them can just be the behavior types of changes to make it work for you. Thank you for all these additional inquiries. I am excited about learning some additional fixes for like the software we have. Like people are here this summer teaching formative and Cami and Edpuzzle and all the other ones, and making sure those all tie into synergy. I need to get better at that. I've definitely been over doing too much data input on the keyboard, and like that takes so much time. And when the software works for you, then you have more time in your workday for the more fun stuff. Yeah, thanks, Geneva. Yeah, that would be awesome if you shared a little bit, because some people don't quite know that this is like in their wheelhouse. You can use it all you want, and hit me up if you get stuck on any particular issue. And yes, administrator, district office people, they got a lot of these names. They're on these devices quite a bit. All right. We've done a great job making use of this hour. Thank you all so much for being in attendance and helping me through my first presentation in a long time in this kind of a setting. And use Google Chat later on in the school year. If you have questions for yourself or for your site, go ahead and bring them my way. I'm happy to help. I'm at La Paz. If you ever want to say hi, if you're on site, and have fun exploring. Don't be afraid to take little breaks and take care of yourself in the meantime. You have a lot of summer left, and it's nice out there. This is a good time of year for us. And I am going to stick around for another 10 minutes if people have like a super individual question. But I know some of you have another session. You need a little bit of break. Got to get up, get a snack, get some water. I don't know if some of you can hear my dog whining out there. But yeah, if you've been here for a solid hour, please take that break. Not a micro break either. Take a solid, full, like 5-minute-er out of the bathroom. Just next stretch, we were on the toilet. You've all been great. Thank you. Have fun at your next one in your summer.